What's happening, everybody? Hope y'all are doing good out there. Thanks for tuning in to the Crash Bang Boom podcast, episode 291 with guest Sasha Horn of Exhorder. Sasha and I caught up to talk the last 6 years since we last spoke at St. Vitus and talked to their new record, Defctum Omnium, which is due out March 8th on Nuclear Blast, as well as the breezy experience of recording said record, their new guitarist, Pat O'Brien, desert vortexes, and much more. So hope y'all enjoy it. Today's episode is sponsored by OneUpLoops.com. Drummer Carson Gann and his team spent an incredible amount of time recording over 450,000 shaker, tambourine, and hi-hat loops at every possible tempo and multiple feels with incredible mics and outboard gear for you to pick and choose. It's organized for you to find exactly what you need with just a few clicks, and everything feels and sounds incredible. You could sign up for free to check it out and gain full access to all 450,000 loops starting at just $6 a month. No download limits, whatever you want, whenever you want. New loops, one-shots, and drum breaks are being added weekly. And having used it myself, I could definitely say it's a great addition to the arsenal of any drummer and or producer, engineer, etc. So check it out at OneUpLoops.com. The Crash Bang Boom podcast can be found everywhere all podcasts are found. If you like what you hear, please check out any of the previous 290 plus episodes, and double high fives if you could give me a like, a subscription, and or a positive review, as the support is always appreciated. All right, let's do it to it. Sasha Horn, Exhorder, Defctum Omnium, Crash Bang Boom.
Crowds go mad with joy.
I'm here with Sasha Horn of Exhorder. What's up, dude? It's only been 6 years since we last spoke. Last time I saw you, you were playing your first shows with Exhorder in New York at St. Vitus, playing The Law one night and playing Slaughter in the Vatican the other night. And we talked. I've seen you in other cities where I've lived since then because it's been 6 years.
Yep.
But damn, dude, what's going on, man?
Oh, right now I escaped into my daughter's room so I could not get any distractions. Just family life, man, and it's splitting time between doing Exhorder and being a dad.
How many kids are in the house?
Currently, my 3-year-old, which is why I escaped to the room farthest from him.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because he's in his terrible threes. But
yeah, they are terrible.
He's the greatest thing ever, but he likes to push my buttons. We have that dynamic right now where he's testing his limits.
Absolutely.
And yeah, you know how it goes.
Yeah, I have a 3-year-old and he's all about it. And then I've got a 5-year-old. He just turned 6 a week ago.
Oh, well, congrats.
But he too is basically a clone of myself and has like every obnoxious quality that like I'm neurotic about. So then he gets to remind me about it. And I'm like, God damn it.
It's karma, dude. What goes around comes around. Now we're paying the price for all of our sins.
For real. I get reminded of it every day. And then like I somehow have to be patient now, which I've never had patience my entire fucking life.
Dude, it is. it's very trying. Yes, it's very trying. It's actually my stepson. I had gotten married last year in June and have since then. I had an 11-year-old daughter from a previous marriage, and now I have a 16-year-old and a 3-year-old stepson and stepdaughter, which is the greatest thing ever. But yeah, I mean, it's kind of having gone through that phase with my daughter early on, I'm getting to do it all over again. So it's, in a way, it makes me feel young again.
Right. I suppose so.
It's a good thing.
Yeah.
It's a good thing.
I've heard people say that it keeps you young. There's one side of me that like all of the anxiety that it gives me might be shaving off some of those deadpan years. So it might be slowly killing me as well.
I think it's both, man. It's aging me. I guess I'm just staying right where I should be because it ages me yet keeps me young. It's a weird vortex we live in. Yeah.
Absolutely, man. Well, cheers, dude. I've got a large vodka soda. You appear to have some wine there.
I'm the red wine guy. Cheers. Let's do this.
I am as well. I've been sipping on some of that prior to this as well. Well, last time I talked to you, man, you were in New Mexico. I believe you're still in New Mexico, correct?
I am in Albuquerque. I've been here for probably about 12 years now, actually. Yeah.
Right on.
Ouch.
Yeah.
Time flies.
Yeah, Albuquerque's a strange town. We must have talked about it the last time that we spoke. I didn't go back and listen to that original interview, but I think I was telling you my mom lived in Santa Fe, and so I would always fly into Albuquerque and hang out in Santa Fe and go to Taos and like do like that kind of crazy, weird New Mexico desert vortex fucking circuit.
Dude, desert vortex is the best way to put it. It's I'm from Chicago originally, and
Yeah.
all my family, my parents, aunts, uncles, cousins, they're all still back there. So I try to go back as often as I can, but I've never really gotten fully used to this place. It is sort of a world within a world. It's bizarre.
It is.
Yeah, it's. I'll leave it at that. You know what I mean. You've lived it a bit.
Yeah.
I miss home,
Yeah.
but I get there often enough, so it's all good.
Right on. Yeah, that whole Southwest desert scene is just bizarre. And I mean, I lived in one of the last times, 2 times ago when I caught up with you when you were touring with Exhorder was when I was living in Salt Lake City. We lived there for a year and a half.
That's right.
And then, so that's not the Southwest. It's obviously north, although Arizona's part of the Southwest, but I think that's more
Yeah.
south Arizona. So I don't even know, again, what you would even call Utah up to Idaho and like all that, but it was awesome living up there. It was awesome. It's beautiful there. It's crazy. It's like no other place on the face of the planet. I love it there.
Are you talking? When you talking about Southwest? You're talking about Utah now.
I'm talking about like up into Utah, like southern Utah.
It's weird, man. I've never really felt a connection with the Southwest. It's just having grown up in a place that's lush with green and
Yeah,
and bodies of water, and this is just the opposite.
totally.
It's dry.
It's a desert.
It's just dirt. Exactly. Enough said. It's a desert. I'm not meant for a desert climate, but everything happens for a reason.
Yeah,
I have a full on family now, and it's almost like that. Like I know why have been here. You know what I mean? Like
totally.
everything happens for a reason. Things come full circle, and you kind of like, oh, that's why. So
Yeah,
exactly.
here you are, 12 years. I mean, after Hurricane Katrina, I was saying I would go to New York for a little while, and then I was there for 15 years.
Exactly, dude. It's weird like that. Blink of an eye. I can't believe it. Crazy.
Hell yeah. Well, dude, you recently went on a run, and we'll have to revert back to more in the Southern Skies for a little while because I haven't even talked to your experience about recording that record, much less the new one,
Sure.
Defctum Omnium. But how was this most recent run? Y'all went down to South America?
Yeah, dude. It was amazing, and it was a short run. I believe it was like 10 shows in 11 days. And that doesn't mean we had a day off. It means that day was just packed with, I think we took like 3 planes to get wherever we were going on that day.
Oh boy.
So it was a travel day. So it was, I've never done, I think it was like 15 planes in 11 days. It was exhausting.
Whoa.
I mean, we were getting, after the show, there's obviously, we got to do some more work after we're done playing and get back to the hotel. A lot of these lobby calls to get transportation to the airport. We'd get like, where it's like 3 a.m, 4 a.m, getting like 3 hours of sleep a night, and then like hoping we get sleep on the plane. So it was probably the most like exhausting run we've done. But on the flip side, like the fans out there are amazing.
Yeah.
They're so heartfelt and warm, and it makes it worth it. We're exhausted and just feel kind of dragged down. But as soon as you get on that stage, as soon as you get to the venue, I mean, these fans are like outside the hotel waiting for us, at the venues, by the bus. It makes all of that go away. And it reminds you of why you're doing what you're doing. It's crazy, dude.
Yeah. That's one of those dreams, having heard so much about the passion of South American fans, and also just seeing video of of countries that maybe they speak Spanish, maybe they speak Portuguese, they speak another language.
Yeah.
So if they don't know exactly what the lyrics are in English, they'll hum the melodies of it. So they're basically singing along like they're in a soccer game, like the whole fucking time.
Totally. It's totally like that. You nailed it down. It's dude, it was amazing. I this tour especially was like, I really hold it close to the chest because we got to tour with Vio-lence, and they've been one of my favorite bands since Eternal Nightmare came out. I mean, I still have the cassettes. Like,
yeah,
it was a dream come true. It's one of those few bands where I'm like, I hope someday that I get to a place where I can tour with them. And it was everything I hoped it would be. They feel like family. We got along so well that we actually like miss them, like legit, like genuinely. And we're going to be doing a stateside run with them. And we're like, oh, we can't wait. But dude, I was like stage diving while they were playing. I haven't done that since I was in my 20s. We're talking like 20 years ago. I went like all out for these guys because it was like a dream come true. So the whole run was just amazing. It was amazing.
Fuck yeah, man. So new record, Defctum Omnium. Tell me a little bit about recording this bad boy. To my ear, it sounds like a little more upbeat, kind of thrashy punk side, and then of course it's got like those kind of slower, heavy stuff that is juxtaposed with it along the record. And I love some of Kyle's vocals. Like for people who don't know, Kyle from New Orleans, Kyle Thomas, he plays, or at least played for one time, in a Dio Black Sabbath era cover band, and I know he's a big fan of Ronnie James Dio, and I heard him it's awesome, like hearing him really belt some shit out on this record, which I really dig. But
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I really enjoyed hearing some of that production as well. I know that y'all went with the same guy that did the previous record, which also sounds killer. He's a Swedish guy, is it? What's his name?
Jens Bogren.
Okay.
I always feel like I'm saying these names wrong, but I think I got it right.
Okay.
Yeah, he's a Swedish guy. He's done like, oh God, just look his name up, and he's been around for a long time. His resume is extensive.
Yeah.
Like, I think what you were getting at is like how like the recording process went this time around with Defctum Omnium, and the band's been through a lot since the last time we actually sat down and did like an interview together.
Yeah.
So we self-produced this album.
Nice.
Which is something we've always wanted to do, at its core, because Pat O'Brien, ex-Cannibal Corpse, ex-Slayer, et cetera, he came into the fold, but this writing had begun during the pandemic for this album, and it started taking shape then. And of course, that slowed down the process and lineup changes, et cetera, et cetera. But in a nutshell, this recording process was probably the smoothest that we've all experienced.
Yeah.
Because we had like a core, it was Kyle, Jason, and I, and Pat. But since we were sort of the three doing the majority of the writing, because we started it very early on when it was, just us together. Dude, it was like the most family affair in terms of writing and recording that I've ever experienced in my entire life.
Nice.
Went so smoothly. I tracked the album, and I believe it was just like 2 days.
Really?
Because it was in the blood and bones, man. What we've done together, it just flowed like nothing else I've experienced. It was the most amazing experience in terms of camaraderie, brotherhood, writing together, really getting in there, and all of us being hands-on with all of each other's parts. It was amazing, man. It was amazing.
Did y'all record it at Jason, the bass player's house?
We always kind of start there. We start the writing there. We kind of demo stuff out there, where we kind of like do it in sections. Like we'll start doing like very basic rough drafts at Jason's. Then we take it to Robbie, cut some like better quality demo stuff, go over it with a fine-tooth comb, and really focus on song structure. And this time we went to him for the finished product. He's like almost at this point like the fifth Beatle, the fifth in a way.
Yeah.
So we're like, why don't we do it where we feel at home, we're comfortable, with him, having worked with him for years now. It's like, just record at home base, man. It feels like home. Go with what's most comfortable. The proof is in the pudding. You know how it all came out. Every step of the way plays such a part in how this album came out.
Yeah. Was there anything that y'all were listening to, or any bands that kind of found their way into y'all's playing, and maybe some of the faster, thrashier stuff, or is that so embedded in everyone's blood that was just something that came out at that given time?
That's a good question too. I think it's both. It's so ingrained in us, and I think like, it's sort of like a sixth sense to just go at it that way. But
yeah,
and I guess it's kind of cliche at this point. A lot of bands that came out of the pandemic, their first album coming out of that, are like, man, just the state of the world and what we went through in the isolation. Well, sure. How is anybody not affected by that? But it's what we went through as a band with the lineup changes, that the effect it had on us emotionally, combined with just, having gone through the pandemic. But then it was us always having wanted to get back to our roots. We're all metal guys, but Kyle and Jason and I all come from like hardcore and punk too.
Yeah.
Bad Brains, Circle Jerks, Crumb Suckers, hardcore from both coasts around the world. And we were like, this is the time to like let our inner child like scream. So we went like the more punk hardcore stuff that you hear. We just had to unleash that. We were purging ourselves of a lot of things we've been wanting to do for a long time and kind of weren't able to do.
Mhm.
But finally, at the core of this band, we're all on the same page, and it just flowed, man. It was just second nature to do that.
Yeah. That's awesome, man. It definitely sounds like it. And again, Jens Bogren, I'm assuming I'm pronouncing that correctly as well. I just in looking back at some of the some of the artists that he's worked with, from Opeth, Sepultura to At the Gates, and like
There you go.
Y'all and Dragon
Yeah.
Force, The Ocean, Between the Buried and Me, like so many bands. And I tell you what, that guy knows how to mix guitars to sound really, really incredible. Holy shit.
Yeah.
That's like,
I mean,
has a special talent. Everything sounds great, but there, like when I listen, especially like to this one and the previous record, it's like, God damn, those are some big, heavy guitars, man.
dude, and they're like heavy. There's like meat and potatoes, but it's razor sharp.
Yes.
You could really feel it. And if like even with the bands that you just named that he's worked with, like that's a pretty wide horizon of genres, you know. So
Yeah.
I love that we work with him because he really like another thing we wanted to do with this album, because there's hills and valleys, which we'd intended. You know, you have the thrashier stuff, the more punk stuff, the doom, you know, for lack of a better way to put it, like the doomier stuff. We really went at it where like we don't want this to be, and not that Jens would ever do that, like a cookie cutter style production, but we want each song to have its own life. So we really took the time to you know, the doomier stuff. Let's set those floor toms and the bass and the guitar, just more meat and potatoes, but then like the thrashier stuff, more teeth, more claws, more razor sharp.
Yeah.
You know, and I feel like it really came out. So I'm hoping that everybody can feel that. But that's the guy to do that.
Yeah. Again, man, I've been working with like, you know, production and audio production side and engineering and mixing and everything. And
Cool.
you know, I'm always listening to producers. And when I hear that, I'm like, fucking A, man, I don't know what he's doing. I would love to sit with that guy and have him like give me some lessons on like big guitar production. Cause wow, he's got it in spades, man.
And I love that because you do that, you also have more of an ear, or you have like, you're a bit more dialed in like than the average listener, maybe because you come from that side of things too. And it's really cool to hear that from you, because you have that other, you can see it from another perspective, you know?
Man, if you blew through the songs in 2 days, I'm assuming you were so well rehearsed at that point that, I mean, were the fills pretty much like through composed? Are you one of those guys that from A to Z, you're like, this is the fill for this is the fill for this, and you just kind of memorize everything? Or did you improvise some, or do you mix them? Or
You know, it's funny, like on Southern Skies, I feel like in the studio, a lot of the fills were like kind of, I am more of a feel player. Like live, I'll admit that my fills aren't gonna be the same as on the album, because it's a lot of like I'm just vibing off the energy of that moment.
good.
And it's kind of like and I think that's cool. I mean, I think if I go to see a band, I don't want them to play everything, you know, note for note like the album, because I'm going for the live experience.
Totally.
I don't want it to totally mirror the recorded version.
Yeah.
With Southern Skies, it was more like, you know, there was a template, and I went with that. But then, you know, however I was feeling at that moment on the fly, I would just maybe throw an extra little something in there. But I have to say that with Defectum, it was a bit more mapped out. But I always kind of leave a little bit open to interpretation at that moment. You know, I don't know. I think it allows for it to breathe a little bit more. I want it to feel more alive.
Uh-huh.
So I'm not one of those guys, nor do I know drum theory well enough to like write it hit for hit, but
Uh-huh.
I can't play that way. I really vibe on the moment, on the here and now, you know?
Right, man. Well, since we spoke, man, again, it's so weird to think that it was 6 years ago. For me, it's even stranger because I've lived in 3 states since that time.
Yeah.
And I've had I must have had my first son, so I've had another son. But yeah, 3 states, an
Wow.
additional kid from New York to Salt Lake City, and then now like just south of Atlanta. The last time I saw y'all, that was a really fun show as well when y'all
Yeah,
came
hell
through
yeah. It
Atlanta.
was awesome hanging with you for a bit while we had the chance to.
Yeah, man.
Yeah,
It
that
was
was great.
it was wild though, because as well when I saw y'all at St. Vitus when y'all were doing the first 2 records, you had Marzi and you had Vinny, and then I saw y'all in Salt Lake City, and I think it was just Marzi. I don't even know if Kyle was playing guitar at that point. And then I saw y'all Atlanta,
No.
and Kyle started to play guitar, and then you had Pat in the
Yep.
band. So I was like, well, at least you got the 3 guys, the core of the
Oh,
band, still
yeah.
together.
It's funny to hear it all laid out like that in a timeline in that amount of in that short amount of time, because it's like, wow, it's like 6. That's when I'm like, wow, it has been 6 years, because like you've been through a lot, we've been through a lot. 6 years of living, period.
Right.
A lot happens. So that's the point of that.
Yeah.
It's like, wow. Yeah, a lot has happened.
It's
A lot has
crazy,
happened.
man. Are there any sort of realizations or epiphanies that you've had in your own playing via recording or live since we last talked? You know, sometimes when you go on a tour, maybe it could be your setup, it could be an ergonomic thing, it could be cymbal height, for fuck's sake. Sometimes your shoulders start to hurt. Weird shit like that.
Good point. You know, it's funny because I feel like for me, some drummers have it like they spend a lot of time sitting at the kit and working that shit out. And I feel like in a way I'm like, oh, I'm a bad drummer because I just get behind the kit and I start slamming away, and it's just so visceral and from the gut. I will say that it's funny you should mention cymbal height. That's one thing I pay closer attention to, because one thing in the studio is, things have to be spaced in a certain way
Yes.
where, mic placement and sound waves and, all
Bleed.
this mathematical shit that I know is important, but those cymbals end up being too high up. And yeah, it's killer on the shoulders, man. I feel it the next day. So things like that. Yeah, I guess it's weird too. It's like, I think throughout my whole life and until the day I stop playing, it'll always be like a learning experience for me. Cause I am kind of guilty in a way of like, when we go on these tours overseas, you're renting gear, you're using someone, some maybe the band before you sharing the kit, and you kind of just, and sometimes you don't have that much time to get up there and set up, and you just bam, you're behind the kit. It is what it is, and I feel so lucky that I come from more of a. I throw the word punk around a lot, but I bleed that, like I come from that. But it's like, give me 3 drums and 2 cymbals, and like I'm gonna play my parts,
Yeah.
and I just get up there and I do it because it's crunch time and I have to, and I come from that.
Yeah.
So I feel kind of blessed that I'm able to do that, because I don't think every drummer can do that.
Right.
You know?
I mean, you definitely learned that if you don't have roadies and you're setting you're setting your own stuff up and you're using rented gear, which you're talking about, which you're gonna do.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's similar in many ways to just being kind of a gig drummer and playing house kits. You never really know what you're going to get when you show up. So you just
Totally.
got to be able to figure out how to tune whatever you need to do to make it sound the best, or know how to hit it, and or know how to hit them right, have your own sense of dynamics, and kind of just know how to speak through a kit, so to speak. So regardless of the gear that you're playing, unless it's absolute fucking trash, but even then, I feel like I've played gigs and people are like, that was actually pretty good. I'm like, thinking to myself in my own head while I'm playing it, like, these drums sound like fucking garbage.
Yeah, exactly that. And you said it best. I've never heard it put that way, but you have to speak through that kit no matter what.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been a long time, but back in the day, I was like, I would sit on milk crates. Like, I sit pretty low.
You do.
And sometimes those yeah. Maybe it's even more noticeable than I think, but sometimes those seats don't get low enough. I mean, I've taken milk crates. I've played on completely shitty sets, but if I can get through it, I feel like that's a win. And I'm like, all right, I think it's just a really good thing to have to be thrown into the fire like that and learn to deal with it and be able to still speak through that. So that was, I loved how you put that, man. I'm going to totally quote that from now on and give you credit, of course. It was all you.
Hell yeah, dude. I appreciate it.
It's great. It's the best way to put it.
Hell
you
yeah.
got to fucking speak no matter what. You have to let your voice be heard. So yeah.
Yeah, man. How has it been with Pat O'Brien in the band, given sort of his background with everything like you mentioned, Cannibal Corpse, Slayer, etc. I mean, you know what's crazy? When I saw you in Atlanta, I was like, that guy's a fucking giant. I thought he was like 6'8" because he's just like a big kind of crazy looking dude. And then when I was like, okay, when I met him, I was like, I'm actually taller than him, but he looks he looks enormous on stage. I don't know what's going on with that.
I don't know what it is, but it's just his thing. Like he's got like this certain body. I mean, I'm like 5'8", or maybe I'm shrinking at this point, but he's definitely taller than me. To me, he's a big dude. It's he's one of those guys where like his persona and everything that he does kind of makes him seem taller, even though he's a big guy to begin with.
Yeah.
It's that stance. Like he's one of those guitarists that he's made his trademark look out of just standing there, but he doesn't need to do anything else because he's a commanding presence. He takes attention no matter what. But as far as him being in the band, like it was one of the best things that's ever happened to us as people, as a band, to be able to have Pat come in at a time when I think he knew he needed it. We knew that he needed it. He's just too good to not be playing. He's amazing. But it's not just that, it's him as a person. Like we've never felt that much in common. It's like we really, really look to have other people in the band that can gel with the business side, but also be part of this family, because that means a lot to us.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the best band experience you're going to get, is to be able to have the whole well-rounded thing, be like a brother, but just be able to do your part and put in the work. And he is exactly what we've been looking for. And Kyle would even say exactly what this band has needed since probably it started. Kyle has even said that it's never felt this good in the entire existence of the band. And
wow.
And it just feels that good. Pat is part of that vibe. If we didn't have Pat, it wouldn't feel that way. He's a great sweetheart of a person, amazing player, and he's so humble and down to earth and just thankful to be a part of this just as much as we're thankful to have him a part of it. He's an amazing person.
That's awesome, man. For those of you from New Orleans that are listening to this as well, as far as I know, the Pat O'Brien in which we are talking about, again, is the guitarist who played in Cannibal Corpse, etc. I don't know that he has any familial connection to Pat O'Brien's bar in the French Quarter in New Orleans. That blew me away when I saw that. I was like, wait, Pat O'Brien? Wait, is this like the son of Pat O'Brien? And then I realized, no, it's not the guy. Okay.
I was going to say, as far as I know, no, it's a coincidence. I'm sure that's like the John Smith of Irish names. I mean, it's very common.
You're not wrong.
If we still used phone books, there'd be like probably two full pages of Pat O'Brien. So,
right.
Yeah.
Totally, man. That's funny, dude. By the way, I revisited Mourn the Southern Skies again for a minute, and I was going to say I really dig both your playing and just the songwriting, and like I mentioned, the production, riffs, everything. The three songs off of there, Asunder, Hallowed Sound, and Yesterday's Bones. Those three songs I listened to quite frequently off that record. I was going to tell you, I thought y'all did a great job on those.
Thank you very much, man.
Hell yeah.
Maybe I think it's just a me thing. I know there's other people like this. It's really hard for me with all the albums I've recorded, because I'm such a harsh critic of myself. It's hard for me to go back and listen to them. So I'll really take a lot of steps back, and it sometimes might be years before I'll go revisit it, which sounds horrible. I mean, obviously I'm listening to it a bunch while we're in, producing it and doing the final mixes. I have to, but sometimes it's kind of cringy sometimes, because I'm like, oh, I could have done this. I didn't do this right. Not that even that anybody would really notice any of that, because it's all in my own head. So More Than the Southern Skies was like that too. Like it took me a while before I could go back and listen to it without a biased opinion and just try to listen to it fresh as a fan, or just plainly a listener. I can say that with this newest album, though, I don't feel quite that way. I did have to give it some breathing room. Because you're constantly getting pounded by it while you're working on it. You got to take a step back. But I have come back to it sooner than pretty much like every other album I've recorded. So that also says a lot about, what the aura surrounding the actual recording was just so positive.
Nice.
I don't know. I'm very emotional that way. There's a lot attached to a recording of an album. It's not just time in the studio and my parts. There's a lot more to it. It's the relationship with your bandmates. There's just a lot more to it, man. It's a very heavy emotional thing for me personally.
I hear you, man. Does your lady like heavy music? What do you play in the house?
She does not. I mean, not that she doesn't like heavy music, but I mean, she's from San Diego. She grew up on like the California punk hardcore scene. Not so much metal. It's never really been her thing. In the house, I mean, we really we listen to a lot of the same things, but it's more like, more like post-punk, Joy Division, Interpol, a lot of, like Boy Harsher, like a lot of the newer goth stuff. I hate labeling things these days because it's hard to, and I feel like I'm boxing it in.
Right.
But I mean, when I'm not out on tour or recording, I still listen to metal, but I'm listening to more stuff that's not these days.
Yeah.
A lot of classical, grew up on jazz, a lot of, post-hardcore, a lot of Helmet,
Hell yeah.
Naked Ray Gun. It's funny because I feel like I threw these names out to you 6 years ago.
And we were
doing this. Yeah, we were in the basement of the St. Vitus Club trying to do this with all the noise happening around us, and I was throwing out names, but it's like, those are just like mainstays for me. It's the same shit.
Yeah. I hear you. What do y'all have going on that y'all have at least announced tour-wise? I think y'all are going back out again soon, right?
Yes. So the next thing we have coming up in April is the stateside run with Vio-lence, which we're so stoked for. Also with Deceased, which is very cool. It's varied lineup in a way, but I've never gotten to do anything with Deceased before, and I've been a fan since I was a kid, so that's going to be another dream come true.
Nice.
And that's really, I think it's like 8 shows, so it's a short run, East Coast, ending in my hometown, Chicago, which I'm super stoked about.
Awesome.
So I can have the family and friends come out to that one.
Nice.
And then we're still getting more coming in. We're doing a European run with Nervosa.
Okay.
And most of that run will be with them, and then we're doing some headlining or some dates that aren't with them. And then we have some festival dates. And it's funny because I'm sure you can relate. With a family, there are so many things to remember. Open houses at school.
Yeah.
Who's going to drop the kids off? Who's going to pick them up? Et cetera, et cetera. So like all the dates for touring get mixed in, and I'm like, where are we going? When is it? I can't remember, but I know that I have to pick my son up from daycare tomorrow. It's just like that kind of shit. So.
I hear you. Damn,
I'm trying
dude.
to remember everything.
That's the way it goes. Defctum Omnium, what's the release date? It's soon. Very soon.
It's the 8th. It's Nuclear Blast Records again. A wonderful home. Love those guys. Thank you again for doing this for us.
Yeah.
But it drops a week from tomorrow, and we're so stoked. The reviews have been stellar to the point where, like, we text each other like, oh my God, it's like a dream come true for us. Because when we knew that we'd be writing this, mainly just the 3 of us, it was kind of like exciting and scary. And it was every emotion at once, because it's something we've never had to do. We're like, we're biting off so much. We know we can chew this.
Yeah. But
let's hope that everybody loves this album. And so far, man, it's been amazing, like beyond words, amazing with the press we've been getting. And it's just like, we're floating on this, and we're ecstatic that to all the press we've been getting. And we love all of everyone for giving it their time. It's always much appreciated. And we're so happy to be able to bring this album to the world.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, from what I've heard, and I've been able to listen to it a couple of times, it's awesome. I think people are going to really dig it. It's y'all. I think y'all nailed it.
Thank you so much, Jody. Thank you.
Hell yeah, man. Well, congrats on cutting your hair, dude. You joining the ranks of The Rock and Jason Statham, myself. Just a bunch of bald, handsome motherfuckers.
Dude, I don't know if this is the reason why you did it, but genetics, man. I started losing my hair and back, and I was like, you know what? I'm not down with like the skullet, so I'm just gonna shave it. I did keep some hair and back,
yeah.
But I was like, it's just time, dude. It's just time.
Yeah, I hear you. I literally, the joke that my ongoing joke about it is that like it's about cutting your losses literally and figuratively at that point. It's
Love it.
yeah. I mean, I didn't realize how balding I was. People would tell me that I was kind of balding back here, but it's hard to see it.
Yeah.
At some point, like I was at a corner store, like in New Orleans or something, and like they had the security cam that faces the counter from the behind, and behind them was the little monitor with like all the little cameras around, and I could see the top of my head behind them in the monitor, and I was like, "Fuck, that sucks."
Yeah, dude, it's so funny. It's exactly that. Like I always kind of like, okay, so I knew I was losing it, but I was going to avoid every sort of room or setup where I could see it back at me, and I was in denial. And then I finally saw it, and I was like, "Yo, that fucking sucks. It's time for it to go." Same thing, dude. Same thing. Shit.
Yeah, dude. I was like, I guess I'm gonna have to try to figure out how to. I mean, thankfully I could grow a beard, but I was like, I gotta like actually like work on growing a beard now. I don't want to just be like a bald guy with no beard and look like I'm going through chemotherapy or something, or like,
dude.
You know.
And that's what I'm like. I'm a little guy, and I'm skinny, so I'm like, man. I know if I shave my head, I'm gonna look like I'm sickly. You know, no disrespect to people who are actually going through that.
Of course.
I know what I'm gonna look like. So I decided, like, my wife was like, "Why don't we just shave it, but keep like, you know, some hair and back?" So I got this thing, this sort of like bigger than a rat tail. I'm living my inner white trash, and I'm loving it.
Awesome.
I'm loving it. But it was totally that. So yeah,
nice.
But I can't grow. You have a nice beard going. I can't even do that. So I'm just stuck. I saved hair and back because I can't do it in front.
I gotcha. All you need now is like some crystals, a shotgun, some meth, and like a unicycle. And you're in the desert vortex, bro.
Dude, I was gonna say I'm in Albuquerque, so I can literally walk outside my front door and gather all those things with the quickest game of scavenger hunt that you've probably ever heard of. Albuquerque scavenger hunt, dude.
Absolutely. Fuck yeah, dude. Right on, Sasha. Well, it was good catching up with you, man. Again, congratulations on the record. I'm glad y'all are happy despite all the lineup changes and everything, but I think you got a great record to show for it, and I'm looking forward to everything y'all got happening throughout this 2024.
Yes, dude. I hope to see you again. It's always great hanging out with you. Thank you so much for having me. It's always a pleasure, always. So thank you so much.
Yeah, man. All right, everyone, that does it for this one. Thanks for dropping in, and thanks to Sasha for catching up. New Exhorder out March 8th. Get your thrash on. We'll catch y'all around the bend. Crash, bang, boom.